And we're back at it and off and running. Little Twilight Friday action coming your way here over the next few hours at Gulfstream Park. Great to have Acacia Courtney, Jason Blewett, and all of you here at our state-of-the-art racetrack in Howendale Beach. And a good Friday afternoon, everybody out there, including you, as we get underway at 2:15.
Thank you. Yes, happy Friday to everybody. Thanks for joining us here at Gulfstream, whether you're coming out to the track or watching in simulcast land. And it's a very important day, not to mention it is Twilight Friday, but it's also Beat the Expert, and I am up. And no pressure. Jason, you had an excellent week last week, so I'm hoping I've got at least a couple winners in today's card. 9 races on tap, so head over to our Facebook page, just about an hour. Get your picks in, see if you can pick more winners than I can. Yeah,
our first, again, at around 2:15 on the turf course, listed as good today. We did have a brief and typical, I think, South Florida rainstorm that rolled through this place maybe an hour or so ago. Rain came down pretty hard as a result. We are sloppy and good, but the scheduled the scheduled turf races today remain on the grass. And again, Acacia with the Friday Beat the Expert getting underway at around 2:15 with the first race today. It is a Twilight Friday after all. There's a lot going on here over the next few hours at Gulfstream Park. And when the horses come to a close in today's nightcap, stick around and head on up to the Sport of Kings for turnstiles.
Yes, it will be in the Sport of Kings. As you said, a little bit of weather complications today, but the turnstiles are the band of the day. Free live music at 7 p.m. So after the last race, we'll conclude, and lots of good fun to happen later on into the evening today on our Twilight Friday card.
You can never go wrong with an excellent Billy Joel cover band. I don't care who you are, where you come from, none of that matters. Billy Joel is like Bob Marley. If you have a pulse running through you, he's just a universal artist, and we welcome Turnstiles. We'll certainly get into a New York state of mind a bit later today with Turnstiles, the band, in the Sport of Kings on the second floor. And of course, speaking of the Sport of Kings, well, this is a ransom fit for a king and then some. Saturday's mandatory payout, the Rainbow Six, assuming, Acacia, that nobody is a single winner today.
Absolutely. So don't forget to check your tickets this afternoon. We have a carryover of more than $950,000 today, and tomorrow that should be bet to the sky on mandatory payout day. I think it's a sequence in which you can find a single potentially, and we'll be really interested to handicapping that sequence tomorrow, as well as taking a look at today's Rainbow Six sequence.
No question, the summer meet here, smack dab in the middle of June, is alive and well at beautiful Gulfstream Park. Sun is actually coming through on this Sunset Friday as we turn our attention. Quite a bit of ground to cover on the show, and we'll just give you a brief little rundown as far as what's on tap today. First race has got quite a bit going on. It is your deadline to sign up with the Beat the Expert contest over on our Facebook page against Acacia. It is the early pick 5, and how do you like that carryover, Acacia, in the super high 5?
And we've usually seen when there is a carryover, especially in the into the multi-thousands, that carryover is well bet in that super high 5. It starts right in the first race. That's any race of 7 runners or more for that super high 5. It also starts the early pick 5, just a 50-cent wager.
Good stuff. I'll give out a ticket there. And of course, you'll have your Rainbow Six, your Friday Rainbow Six ticket coming up a bit later in this edition of Gulfstream Today. And that carryover sits at over $950,000. 6 of 6 paid about $1,100 yesterday. There was no single jackpot winner. And of course, we close things out race number 5 with the 50-cent late pick 5 as well. So without further ado, no sloppy track blues today, okay?
That's right.
The weather's good. The humidity has died down with the rain that we had, and it's all good here on our Paddock Set Studios. And we'll talk about the pick 5. In fact, I put in a little play singling in race number 2. We're going to stand alone this Sunset Friday with Chicky's Trick in the second race, a horse I thought would be pretty tough given her early speed and her drop back down to the maiden clamming ranks. We'll use the 1, 3, and 4 in the first. The third is actually a very competitive turf sprint for the 3 and up fillies and mares. I like the 5 Poison Art, the number 6 Sound Defense with her early speed, and I think the 7 Indominus is going to run a big race today, and we'll close it out at $18 play with a 2-horse spread in both races 4 and 5. But getting back to the crew in the first today, got a number of familiar foes facing each other. This one for the gals, the fillies and mares. mares at a mile and a 16th on the turf. The claiming price is $16,000. And I'm curious to see where you went. In fact, you took one of the horses coming out of the 10th race here back on May 19th. That was a blanket finish that afternoon, and it's a race we're actually going to backtrack and show you. Won narrowly by Cali Cat. Boys upstairs did a great job highlighting the two fillies we want to watch. You can keep your eye on the number 5, Legend of Kitten, who's down in the purple, kind of covered up in the two-pat between. I really, if we could just pause it there, guys, I really want everybody to watch this horse, the number 7, Harbor Jedi, and you could even keep your eye on Acacia's pick. That is the number 2, Breakaway. We will roll it from there, and as far as having any position, Acacia, I think with that insane wide trip and launching up and putting in a run that, to be honest, Harbor Jedi on this particular day had the most taxing trip out of the 3 key contenders off this race.
It certainly did, and you can see that Harbor Jedi having to be so wide was not affected by the bumping in here, but was very, very wide in that race. And I think actually today that she's going to be much more forwardly placed. And I think she might actually potentially be the controlling speed if Ramsey Zimmerman gets more aggressive and she's not as far back as she was last time.
Now, your pick, the 4 Breakaway, who on that day really, I thought, had a solid ride from Amici Al Jaramillo. Tyler Gaffalione takes over the controls today for Midwest and Armando de la Cerda. Would you make the argument, because she was able to save ground but never really had any punch down towards the inside? You think maybe she just didn't like running covered up like that?
I think that she had a hard time being covered up. She tried to weave through traffic and come up the rail. She did have to check slightly in the stretch with all of that traffic going on in front of her. But she's a horse that's been consistently in good form for Armando de la Cerda. He's put her in the right spot. She's been running against that 16,000 tag types, whether it's for the condition claimers or the straight non-winners of 3. And last time out, slight trouble again, but I don't think that's really the race you can go off of. I think that she'll sit just behind Harbor Jedi in here. I like Tyler Gaffalione on the saddle, but I agree. She had a good ride last time. She just needs to take that step forward.
And as far as good rides go, I thought Carlos Montalvo, who a few weeks ago, Pete Aiello on a weekend was doing Gulfstream Today with me, was really singing the praises of Carlos Montalvo, who I saw, I guess, for a brief time a few years ago up in New York. A pretty tough circuit up there. I like what I've seen from him as well, and as far as the last out effort goes, really gave the one Legend of Kitten, or Legend of the Kitten that day, with your new kitten, gave that horse a great ride.
He did, and this horse, she did actually drift into one of the foes in the stretch, and that triggered all of the bumping. It did result in her being disqualified from 2nd to 6th, but he'll ride this mare right back, and she's another one that's been in solid form. I really think you could make a case for any one of those 3 horses coming out of that race, and I like your tactic of using all of them as we start that pick 5. I did just land on the horse that I thought had some consistency.
All right, fair enough. And how is the new kitty doing?
Very well. He's very good. He likes to snuggle.
He's probably taking a snooze right now, just like my boy Jake up in northern Fort Lauderdale. Let's get on to the second occasion. Everybody out there, we're glad you're with us on Gulfstream today as we turn the page and we finish off a turf and dirt early double with a main track Florida bred $25,000 maiden claimer. The gals, once again, the fillies and mares, are in the spotlight for race number 2. And I am going to, for better or for worse, just stand alone with the number 4, Chicky's Trick. The obvious, I think, comes into play here as she ran well, relatively speaking, 2 back from maiden 35. They tried her in special weight company. She was a gazillion to 1. I like her just dropping back down as a logical contender.
There certainly could be that, and she does have a lot of speed. Now, I saw this race as having actually quite a bit of speed. The 6 Sassy Slew is going to be on the engine. That's where she's done some of her stronger running, is when she is up close to the lead or on the lead, and I think Chicky's Trick definitely going to be on the lead as well. They got very aggressive with her last time, stepping her up to the special weight competition, and she's now 3rd off of the layoff as well. But I thought her race 2 starts back, she really was just 2nd best. Maybe she needed it, but I still had my questions about her. Talking about 3rd off the bench, the 5 Adocinda, she came off of a layoff and added the blinkers for Jenna Antonucci and didn't really show up, but last time out getting onto the dirt after trying the turf, much improved. And I think with Edgar Zai staying in the saddle today, should be able to move forward.
She's already got experience on wet tracks. Again, the main obviously listed sloppy as race number 2 goes off as our opening leg of the Friday early pick 4. Opening turf sprint on the card goes as Friday's 3rd. It's a 12-5 claimer. Again, the fillies and mares get all the attention early on this Twilight Friday at Gulfstream Park with a good bit of sun shining through our studios here adjacent to the walking ring. And I guess the real key to the race here, Acacia, is do we get another step forward, per se, out of Poison Art, who was solid last year sprinting on the turf, was claimed in late August down at Gulfstream Park by Steve Caceres, needed quite a bit of time to make it back to the races. And we saw, as we backtrack with the spotlight to her effort here on May 10th, that she took a step forward. Do you like her today?
I do like her today. And she was actually pretty rank early on in the race and then got shuffled back to last. I don't think she's used to being this far back. And then you can see the number 4, she was closing very wide in that race. So I think that she made up for it and showed another dimension, and that she's not just kind of a horse that sits that stalking trip. Though she was beaten as the favorite, I think now 3rd off the bench, she should only improve.
Yeah, she's a major player, and it's kind of neat in a way that she's running against one of her old stablemates, one of her old teammates from trainer Steve Caceres, and that's the 7 Indominus, who I'm going to give a look to here. And I certainly understand anybody that says it's a ridiculous pick. She's just way out of form, and her best racing's behind her. I understand that argument. I also think maybe for whatever reason, she's just one of these horses that did not jive with her last out trainer. She was really unable to get into a groove. And as we bring up the Blue It's Bullets today for Indominus, she's got a lot to like in this spot, especially with the horse who's in sort of so-so form. I think a change of scenery is a good thing, and she'll get that today off the claim for trainer David Kazin. This is a barn, again, I'm not too familiar with. They've gone 4 for 4 off the claim over the last 5 years, which is unbelievable to me. I'm hoping she can make it 5 for 5. And she is tactically inclined. I think getting Edgar Zayas back aboard, he'll have her right on the engine here, and that's how she prefers to run. I think Indominus can beat her old stablemate and turn things around in a fun and competitive 3rd race.
It is a very competitive race. And Dave Casson, you bring up a great point. He doesn't claim that often, but he's a very, very sharp trainer and obviously has success when he does claim. I had thought that when she was in her good form, she was not facing quite the level of what she will face today, even though the tags might have been the same. I think that this is a tougher level race. So I did also use a class dropper in the 6 Sound Defense, who's been running against tougher, last time out 3rd behind repeat winner Blue Bahia, who has been in excellent form, and that was against $30,000 condition claimers.
All right, picking up Cordelia Velasquez, who's won a lot of races here in South Florida, nearly 4,000 career victories for Cornelio, and he'll get aboard a filly by First Defense for the Cassie barn. And we, of course, turn our sights. The pressure's on. It's Beat the Expert Friday with Acacia, and her Rainbow Six tickets coming up on the other side of this quick timeout.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve. Give bettors the information they need to win and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet. We are racing.
Saturday, July 1st. Don't miss the Summit of Speed at Gulfstream Park. A full day of live thoroughbred racing action featuring the Grade 2 Princess Rooney and the Grade 3 Smile Sprint. Both Breeders' Cup win-and-you're-in stakes racing. Over $1 million on the line with a first post time of 12:15 p.m. Admission and parking are free. The Summit of Speed at Gulfstream Park. Speed thrills. Welcome to your playground, Gulfstream Park.
And that Summit of Speed, as we welcome you back to this live Friday edition of Gulfstream Today, is a day you want to mark on your calendar. That has really, and for a long time, it's been a day in which the summer racing here in South Florida can really shine, put its best foot forward. And I've always been enamored, even when I was up in New York, the amount of shippers that come in for those races.
We'll get a lot of shippers, and don't forget, it's a 2 Breeders' Cup win-and-you're-in races, so those are definitely some incentive to come and run, and you see some really top-quality horses horses here, not to mention a couple really nice 2-year-old stakes. And we saw, of course, last year the likes of 3 Rules and Cajun Delta Dawn winning. So it'll be exciting to see who we see there this year.
Very good. And let's move on. Speaking of very good, what's the spread looking like today? Little Rainbow 6 time with Acacia's ticket, and it's $43.20.
$43.20. Trying to take a stab and find a single so I can spread in a couple other places, because I think we have that big carryover today. Now in the opener, I did not trust the potential favorites. I'm using 3 horses for the first leg, going to spread with 4 in the 5th race. That's a really tough and competitive race in there. 3 in the 6th and 3 in the 7th as well. My single will all hinge on race number 8, an Express Jet. Now he is over 3 on a wet track, but he has actually had some solid run. I think there was a major pace scratch in here, and he could be forwardly placed from the rail. Just a horse that's been in solid form lately for Bernardo Campos. So he'll be my single. 2 in the nightcap, $43.20.
I hope you get to the nightcap with the 4 and 9 on your play. And again, we have that monster carryover today, more than $950,000. And, you know, we can't control the weather, but Express Jet, we'll find out. He's one of the keys to this entire card, and certainly late in the day in the Rainbow 6. Wet track might be his undoing, but I like him as well as you. More on that in a few moments. But let's get on to the 4th race today, in which maiden claimers, these are 3 and up fillies and mares. They meet on the main track at 6 furlongs. I'm going to take a speedster, and I do think when push comes to shove with the right break, and she has been an alert breaker, and the right ride with the Misael Jaramillo, they've got the 4 flying to start a catch. White hot trainer Victor Barboza Jr. Not trying to get too cute here. I'm taking speed and informed speed in race 4.
Absolutely, and I think that she's improved since they added the blinkers 2 starts out. She is a horse that's a little bit distracted, in fact, a lot distracted in the afternoon. So those blinkers have seemed to help her settle a little bit in the last 2. And the winner last time out that she faced, Karembe, actually came back to run solidly yesterday, finishing in the money. But I mentioned earlier I didn't trust the potential favorites in this race, with the 4 flying to stars kind of been knocking on the door, and the 7 Sarah, the Queen Bee, first off the claim for Angel Rodriguez. So I looked for an alternative, and I found a good stat on the 5 Miss Sugar on trainer Joe Orsino in the past 5 years, going from turf to dirt at the maiden claiming level. He does excellent work. It's 24% win, nearly half of the time in the money, and a positive ROI of 258. Now this horse did have a race 2 starts back on a sealed sloppy track where she finished a distant 3rd, but it was behind a repeat winner, and I think there is actually some dirt pedigree there as well. So we'll see second-time blinkers too.
Like that stat with Joe Orsino, who's got a couple, at least a couple of live horses in on the card today, including Heart Astray in race number 7, who is a major player, but some good points. We'll see if she can get it done in the slop. On to race number 5, back to the grass course. Listed good on the Friday program. More fillies and mares. In fact, the gals control first 5 races and then some on the program, and they'll get actually the featured 5th status on the card. $31,000 purse in this allowance race, and it's a good field. You do have some class here, and for me, I'm very anxious to see and interested to see whether Vendita can get herself back on track. She had beaten, in my first few days here, there were a number of horses that had finished behind her in that 4-race win streak. Very impressed during that win streak that she was able to do it at ascending levels. And we'll go back, in fact, and via the spotlight, look at her victory here, Kentucky Derby weekend on May the 3rd, in which she stalked, pounced, and drew away impressively for trainer Patrick Biancone.
And this was, as you said, it was 4 wins in a row, and then things came undone last time out where she did step up the pace, she stepped up in class, and she was still only beaten about 3 lengths. But I thought this was a huge performance from her, and she just had these huge performances in her last couple. But what I also liked this time is that she showed that she's not a need-the-lead type. She showed that she could rate just a little bit off the pace.
Now, she is a major player in the 5th. It goes without saying. And she's a major player in my Friday late pick 5, which gets underway in the 5th race. In fact, I'm using the 2. In fact, I'm going to call class play here with the number 5, King's Ghost, and the 7, Vendita. I think they're in their own little special group, and the others are going to have to really pick up their game to to defeat both the 5 and 7. 3 in race 6 and race number 7. Again, Express Jet down the road. He might be, in a way, the biggest key on this card, and the weather perhaps did not do him any favors with the wet track. We'll wait and see if that's the case. And then a 3-bagger for me in the nightcap, the old 5, 7, and 9. But it's 5, 7 for me in race number 5. And then just getting back to Vendita in this one, I think there's a lot to like as she looks to perhaps, and we'll bring up the bullets, maybe she'll start a new winning streak today for trainer Patrick Biancone after winning 4 consecutive races. I'm hoping that's the case here on the Gulfstream Park turf. She's run very well. In fact, all 6 of her lifetime wins on the GP green. And again, I think, at least at this level, she's probably better when she can stalk and pounce and when she can finish as opposed to being on the lead.
And I actually agree with you there. I think that she can win on the lead, but she is better sitting just off of it and kind of letting the race unfold, as last time she was setting the pace and then she did end up weakening. And a horse that beat her last time is the 5 in here, King's Ghost. King's Ghost is actually coming out of facing stakes competition last time as well, where she ran into the very tough maker-trained Susie B. But this is a mare that I've kind of been watching in her last couple of stakes, because back in April when she ran in the powder break, she was not happy in the walking ring. She was very unsettled, and that showed on the racetrack. And I've been watching her demeanor in her last couple of starts since she moved into the barn of Marty Wolfson, and she's improved each time, both physically and apparently mentally as well. And I thought last time she actually ran pretty well in the stakes. She was on her toes beforehand, much calmer saddling. So I'll give her another try in here today. And she's one that has shown versatility too, and I actually think that she is better showing speed. So I hope that she goes out to the front with Vendita just behind.
All right, Jorge Ruiz piloting the number 5 King's Ghost. Again, you and I see the race in a similar fashion where the 5 and 7 King's Ghost and Vendita are just at a different level. We'll see if that translates to an exacta finish at a short price in the Friday feature. Let's move on to race number 6. Florida bred, $25,000 maiden claimer. These are 3 and up. Our first race for the boys here. The Colts and Geldings take their spot on the main track, going 6 furlongs. And for me, I'm going to head towards the outside. We did have that early scratch of the 5 Prince Raha, but the 6 Canta Claro is where I'm going. Just a major player and a logical player, dropping in class off 2 good efforts.
Dropping in class and second off the bench as well. It was about 9 months, came back in April, and that race turned out to be what we would call a monster key race. There were 5 runners in there. 3 of them came back to win. 1 came back and finished 4th, and here's the 5th horse right here. So it's turned out to be a very productive race. Another little drop and a big jockey change to Tyler Gaffalione.
Yeah, it looks like a good spot for that horse, and a very good notation by you, given the fact fertile ground, I think, says it best with that last out group and horses just running out of their skin in their subsequent starts. On to race number 7, back to the fillies and mares as they meet on the turf at 5 furlongs, straight up $30,000 to $25,000 claimer, and in a way at a shorter distance. I think a number of the horses in the 7 today took a page from the first race fillies, where you've got some familiar rivals. In fact, we've seen pretty good showings of late and some good battles down to the wire between Heart Astray, Hanson's Girl, and My Third Eye, and they're all in the same race today. A couple of them are going out for different barns. Now, we'll pick this one up, their last start together, back on May the 4th. Looking at this race in hindsight, if we could just pause it there, and you watch Tyler Gaffalione in the yellow and blue. I mean, if you bet Hanson's Girl, are you not licking your chops right now?
You're thinking you're in a good spot.
I mean, you're like, can I go to the window now? Can I beat the line? I'll take the 5 to 2 and take the $7 and move on to the next race. But we'll roll the tape here, and as Tyler angles out of the pocket, launches her 3 wide or so off the far turn, Heart Astray down on the rail in the red just had another gear. And off this race, I get it's a turf course that has taken some rain. But off this race, oof, I have a hard time seeing any bit of Hanson's Girl or even My Third Eye turning the tables on Heart Astray.
Well, Heart Astray was very impressive last time as well. And talking about Hanson's Girl, I could not put her on top either. She's a money burner, first and foremost. And I think that she's kind of been knocking on the door. She's good at picking up checks, and she has some speed. Now, looking at Heart Astray, there were a couple things that I was looking at in here. She showed a lot of improved speed last time, and she was able to hold on. I certainly respect the connections, but winners last time out in turf sprints for the Orsino Casino barn is just 2 for 25 over the past 5 years, and it's a negative ROI. Now, this filly might just be moving in the right direction and be in good form. I certainly wouldn't leave her off. But my third eye, first off the claim now for Ruben Gracida, I thought that she was actually doing some of the best running late last time. And I think that you're going to get some more speed in here with the presence of the likes of Fiore in here as well. And that'll give her even more to run at. We know Hanson's Girl is going to be forwardly placed. If Heart Astray shows that same kind of speed, I was looking for my third eye in the new connections, Jorge Ruiz, to pick up the pieces like she did 2 starts back.
Oh, she was very good for a previous trainer, Wesley Ward, defeating Hanson's Girl and Heart Astray in tight finishes and tight photos in March and April. It's a nice little grouping in race number 7, and then some good points by you talking about a pace scenario that might just be to the liking of anybody that can finish from off the pace. Let's move on to Express Jet. He will start as sort of the main player, the main star, late in this Twilight Friday program at Gulfstream Park in the 8th race, a $24,000 optional claiming event on the dirt at 6 furlongs. Even with the weather and that brief rainstorm that rolled through here, happy to say very few scratches on the card. Those that entered are showing up to run. We did lose a trio of horses out of this race, and you take the good with the bad. That brings down Express Jet's price, and we'll look at his race 2 starts back, right? Yeah, he caught the slop last time out. This is his effort on May 14th. This is just a tough old campaigner. An easier race again with the scratches, but his price will be that much shorter. How much, if any, does this wet track bother you?
Well, he didn't show up on the wet track last time, so that's going to be the biggest question. As I alluded to earlier, he's 0 for 3, but I liked how he was staying off of the rail last time. Usually when it is a wet track at Gulfstream, it seems like being off the rail is where you want to be. And I also mentioned this earlier, he does have some speed, and he has the real post in here. The horse next to him in a Swagger who scratched, I thought was going to be the main pace setter. So I think that that helps Express Jet in here. He has finished 2nd and 3rd on wet track, so I don't think he's impossible in the slop.
Horses do change, and that's the one thing that gives me a little bit of a worry, where a horse maybe like the wet track or any sort of racing condition or surface earlier in their career, they get older, sometimes they change. All things being equal, though, he's supposed to beat this field, including the 8 McFly, who's a major player as well. So Express Jet for you and I, and you got a little stat here on, well, a horse that I was pronouncing just fine before the show started, but I'll leave it up to you. What's this trainer stat?
The number 6, Mitos y Leyendas, a little bit of long shot price for me today, and we'll show a stat on Tammy Levy, because this is one of my favorite angles, actually, with this barn. In the money last time out, dirt sprints at the optional claiming level, she's 25% win, and 9 for 16 in the money, 56% positive ROI of 216. Plus this horse, he has a win on a wet track. Tyler Gaffleon read him last time, and he's going to stay, making the 3rd start of his form cycle. If you get anything like, I think he's 6-1 on the morning line, I think he's a good one to use underneath.
Yeah, maybe he's a little shorter after the scratches. We'll see. You get Tyler G at a nice price and a good trainer as well. Yet another barn I've been turned on to here in my little opening stint with you and Ron and everybody in South Florida, which has been terrific. And let's close out a little Friday Gulfstream today with the nightcap, race number 9. Shortly before Turnstiles rocks the joint up in the Sport of Kings, we'll end things with a $30,000 to $25,000 claimer, going 7 on the dirt. And I'm just hoping the horse that you have second and I have on tap, the 9 Epic Drama, can stalk a little bit. There's some speed to his inside with Golden Cantharos and the 5 Legacy Azteca. Pace might be fast in here, and that is a major, major potential chink in the armor to any speed, but I'm hoping Epic Drama is just kind of getting that classic in the right spot, ready to roll beneath Tyler.
And that certainly could be. I did see some other pace in here, just as you were saying, and I think that Epic Drama has actually been running very well in the last couple of starts. So it's interesting that he is getting a class drop today, but maybe just because he's been knocking on the door, they decide just to put him in a spot where he can legitimately win, and that's certainly what he's going to face today. He comes out of a strong race, but I did go with a bit of a class play in here, and that's the 4 Fearless Dragon, who I think you might get a better price on now, back with Eric Yeo. We saw him running here in the winter at Gulfstream. He was even running against top horses like in the Poseidon. But if you look at his race in the Tamarack, I thought he actually ran very strongly there. Not as tough competition, of course, as the Poseidon, but he has the class. He has a stalking or even closing kick and thought he could do it in here.
All right, Eric Guillot sending him back off a trainer change with C.J. McMahon. Little Louisiana flavor with the Fearless Dragon, the Bayou Boys, in race number 9 today. As we have Acacia, Ron, myself in the mix. Glad you're with us again. And Pete Aiello is coming up next for the opening set of this Sunset Friday Scratches and Changes at Gulfstream Park.